Travis Mingoodsell, big news day. This is going to be a long video, so hang on to your hats. This is commentary, of course. I am not a news person. I'm giving commentary in the eyes and view of one who's been correct in warning you about the destruction of America and the collapse of the Mormon church and blah, blah, blah. And so, remember Mars Attacks, the movie? Pierce Brosnan's in it, a whole bunch of cast of celebrities. Well, the aliens, they come down to Earth, and we decide not to shoot them, but to greet them. And so they all gather, and the aliens come down, and then they start shooting. Their whole purpose was to come to Earth to conquer and destroy it. And one of the scenes is of the aliens with a translation recording of "We're your friends, don't run," as they're slaughtering people and blowing up Las Vegas in that particular scene, with Egyptian pyramid, the Luxor temple in Las Vegas in the background. And so this is part of an enemy's attack on a country, is to put in misinformation and disinformation. It's well established all the way back into the art of war and beyond. That's a tactic that has worked over and over again, so it continually gets used. In America, the movie came out called V. It was set in England, Britain, and it was about a corrupt government that was able to be exposed and overthrown because of an underground movement, the V, the Vendetta guy. He was a secret, well-informed spy that was able to work with Queen Amidala to expose the corruption. What happened as a result of that movie was the rise of an organization called Anonymous. They wore the mask of the Vendetta guy and called themselves Anonymous. And so they were going around spreading information under Anonymous. You'll recall during Trump's presidency that Anonymous said, "We are in the White House and we are controlling this out-of-control president," even though we love his plans and acts that he's implementing, especially the cruel torture of human beings at the southern border, separating babies, locking them in cages, keeping them away from their moms. And the left-wing media fell for that, but that's the tactic of Anonymous, is to lure people in because they talk about things that we want to hear. They say information, they go, "Oh yeah, I knew it." That's part of the misinformation, disinformation campaign. Anonymous was fairly mild, though, for the most part. People didn't really know and weren't sure, but there were just those things that they'd say that on occasion would go, "Yeah, that rings true to me." Well, then we get Q. And it's Star Trek. But they use Q as their symbol, QAnon. And they are just outright blatant liars. and they talk. Oh, don't you know Q? Do you want to know more? It's just, you just know Q. It's just understood. And all that, it's just lies. There is no Q but the misinformation lie campaign. They purposely spread lies to destroy America. They are calling themselves patriots, but whose patriots are they? Not America's. Because they're destroying America with their misinformation campaign. And so, yes, Trump is all on top of that, as Twitter fact-checked him and banned a QAnon post of Trump's. And so now Trump is threatening to censor social media. I don't think it's an outright ban yet. We'll have to wait and see what he signs. But he's making the threat, don't you dare censor me. I am the commander-in-chief, and I will say whatever I want. I'm free to speak whatever I want. No, you're not. You've now been guilty of 100,000 deaths of Americans. You are a mass murderer. This is the danger of QAnon, is because it causes people to act on the false information. And when you act on false information, you commit crimes. Trump, the biggest example, as he himself spreads lies himself. He creates lies and spreads them, and people love to spread them. So this is what you need to watch for, is the censorship of press. It's coming. He's now starting it. So we'll have to wait and see what form it takes in the beginning. But remember, Ajit Pai already got it going for Trump when he canceled net neutrality. And so all of the sites on the internet are just going, oh yeah, start the censorship, Trump. Start it. Yeah. Because it's going to get ugly. And you guys, I don't think you fully grasp the dangers. Just like I told you, I don't think you fully grasp coronavirus and the dangers. And then here we are, over 100,000 dead. And in Utah, over 100 dead. And I'll get to Utah's numbers in this. We have civil war that has broken out. Thank God, to the mayor, who's ordering and asking for the arrest of the police officers. But the police are standing defiant. We are above the law. We are the law. You can't touch us. We are immune from prosecution. And the people are saying, you murdered with your badge and authority. And I did the video yesterday on that. So, yeah, they're now rioting in Minnesota. How long is it going to be until we hold our government leaders, our business leaders, our religious leaders accountable? And there's another story that talks about that in regards to a Springville police who assaulted a mother and her daughter because they were putting her at risk for coronavirus. And we're just doing our job giving traffic tickets. Well, you're spreading coronavirus. Utah News already covered that months ago, right at the beginning of all this. And so here we are at a higher peak of coronavirus cases, and cops still aren't wearing the mask or wearing gloves, going around exposing other people to coronavirus. And of course the police department wants to be untouchable. We can do whatever we want. We are the law. And so, but she understood. She understood that the cops need to be held accountable. So good for her. Maybe she's been watching my channel. East Idaho News. That's what you type in on YouTube. And you want to do it before Trump shuts it down. YouTube said, I did the videos on this, YouTube said, hey, we're just going to randomly shut down people we just want to shut down just for the hell of it. They came out with that new policy. And I'm going, uh-oh, I may not be on for much longer. But yeah, they put it in there. They haven't taken it back. They haven't taken it down. It's still in there. And once Trump signs this thing, you're going to see YouTube shutting down people like me. And I'm not a news. I'm classified as people and blogs. So I'm not classified as news. So if they call me fake news, I'm not classified as news. What are they doing? They're purposely twisting their own policies around to justify protecting the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of whom we got breaking news any day now. I'm expecting, if not tonight, by 5 p.m., by tomorrow, by 5 p.m. for, the breaking news of what Friday night news dump. And so pay attention, because it's gonna get ugly. Take care of some business. This is gonna go long, and I've got another thing that also has to be dealt with. So East Idaho News, watch them while you can, because you may not be able to watch them for much longer. Part 3 has been uploaded of the interview with Lori Vallow's best friend. And if you've been living under a rock so that you don't know Lori Vallow, she's Mormon, and she's a murderer. And she married a guy after murdering her husband, who murdered his wife, so that they could marry. And in part 3, it seems that he murdered his wife as part of his near-death experience prophecies. Oh dear God! Because she was saying that he was talking about how she was murdered, or not murdered, she died to fulfill a mission on the other side of the veil, in the afterlife, death. And so, yeah, she was murdered, and they used the cover, oh, she's got a mission on the other side. That's why we murdered her. I mean, she died. Dear God, this is just ugly. That's how, when you twist religion to commit crime, to commit murder, you get all sorts of evil that spawns from that. So part 3 is now available. East Idaho News. That's what you need to type in. For those of you who are Colin Ray fans, concert canceled. No duh. And I see this with another thing. Safe openings for universities. There's only a safe concert, there's only safe openings for businesses and universities and other schools when you stay home. It's like commercials on TV. Save money by shopping at our store. I can save a lot more money by not shopping at your store. This is an advertisement scam that they're doing in our government. I mean, I recognize those scams. Those were back when I was a kid watching TV 8 to 10 hours a day, if you remember my talking about that. And sure enough, our government are now using the same misinformation and disinformation campaigns that commercials use, businesses use for ad campaigns. It's just sickening to watch the complete and utter destruction of our nation. Oh wait, that comes from the Book of Mormon, doesn't it? Ether did it. Lehi, technically Lehi, because Babylon came back and did destroy it, destroyed the temple, murdered, and took the rich elite to Babylon. Yeah, even Lehi is in that Book of Mormon warning for America, and also Moroni, of course. And so, yeah, this is how the enemy works, because it's worked so well throughout all of history. They keep using the same plan over and over and over and over again because people are dumb. We don't learn about our past, and so we keep repeating it. And it's evil that keeps repeating it, because they purposely suppress the information with misinformation and disinformation. Utah is number 1 in essential workers. When I heard this, right away I knew there was something wrong with it. And sure enough, they hire a Mormon who's working for this other company to do this research study to make Utah number 1. And they claim that it's from these specific categories of jobs. And no, it was because Utah had a large number of businesses that did not shut down. The unemployment rate again came out today. I'll get to that. But understand, it's Utah's refusal to accept the truth about coronavirus and their purposeful delay in shutting down all businesses, all ports of entry into Utah. Because not only does the nation have to do it, Utah has to do it. All states had to have done it. They didn't. And now we have over 100,000 dead. Over 100 dead in Utah. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me take care of this. I hate it when it doesn't cooperate with me. Microsoft is stepping up its Big Brother campaign for Trump. That's in the news, as it was exposed innocently by the reporters. And so, yeah, Utah is number 1 for a bad reason. But she's saying, oh, money was flowing into the economy. Another trigger word. No, what happens when you give money to businesses? Do they give it to their employees? Only for their wages. They take the surplus for themselves. They don't increase wages. They don't lower the cost of goods. They don't improve the quality of goods. But when you purposely hire somebody to rig studies, this is what you get. You get more misinformation and disinformation as they deceive people in destroying your community, your state, your nation. It's how they work. So don't be fooled by a pretty face who bats your eyes and says, oh, wow. Don't fall for it, as much as the redhead temptation is. Alright, so the Microsoft tip. It was Microsoft who is now scanning people's computers. They apparently have some kind of a program that sends in a trigger alert of people who have child porn on their computers. And they tipped off the Utah authorities in this one particular case in Bountiful. Other cases, Utah does it on their own and setting traps for men. As you'll have guys pretending to be underage girls on the internet trying to lure people to Utah for sex, and it has all shades of wrong. But it was a child porn tip, which in this particular case, that could be concerning, because this may actually be real child porn, not they found a website and downloaded it onto their computer. This may be an actual implementation of child porn that they're uploading to the internet. Because when the police, the FBI, in this case, I don't think it was the local Bountiful police. This was an FBI tip, which is different than what Utah does. So when they served the warrant on the house, they found a whole ton of stuff. Bombs, guns, money, and drugs. It was a gold mine of criminal behavior in Bountiful. And it was two brothers that were involved in this. It's too early to say how widespread it was beyond just the two of them, who they're connected with, if they're connected with anybody at all. But they are also involved in computer hacking, thus the concern as to the child porn. They may be involved in this spread on the internet. So in this particular case, Microsoft was used for good, not like how Utah officers do it. This is a story to pay attention to as further information gets revealed. That again, Bountiful. It seems to be a hot spot for a lot of things, as Nelson and Irene happen to live in that neighborhood. Pay attention to that one. The church highly invests in Microsoft, though. So as long as it doesn't affect the church, Microsoft will continue to release tips, I would imagine. But hopefully it's not a situation where Microsoft won't send in a tip for people who get victimized by hackers who plant child porn or gay porn or any other kind of illegal material on other people's computers. I've told you that I was a victim of that, as I caught them as they saw that I had caught them and tried to delete it right before my very eyes. And so much for my internet security, and so I canceled that and got another internet security, and then the other week I had an incident. So internet security no longer works. So we are completely helpless, as computer hacking has advanced to the point where, they can go around at will. Nobody can stop them now. And so that's scary. So the question is, are hackers going to be skilled enough to outsmart Microsoft to do what was done on the phones not too long ago, of calling up 911 and sending the cops, the SWAT team, to the wrong address to bust the wrong people for accusations that did not occur. There was a special name for it. I can't remember the name for making the prank phone calls. But the SWAT was thinking it was legitimate, and it wasn't. As they got punked, and they murdered people in the SWAT raids, and it was a big, ugly mess. So pay attention to this. This bust in Bountiful exposed a deeper story that they didn't go into. So we already have cops, FBI, as well as local police in Utah using facial recognition software to track people down from ID, driver's license IDs, just as Hong Kong, China has been implementing a social control program of facial recognition and social networking exclusive to China, because they don't want YouTube, Facebook, or any of that. It's their own social network where they control your lives. They take away your liberties, and they pretend to say, oh, you have been a good, obedient servant, citizen, therefore we are allowing you to purchase one more video game, as we see you are interested in video game purchases. And so, again, how it works is, if you're into gaming, you are allowed to buy a certain number of video games, but you're only allowed to play for a certain amount of time per day. If you exceed the number of purchases, if you exceed the number of playtime, your social ranking is dropped. Sliders did a show on this, as did, it was taken off of Fox and moved to Hulu or something. I can't remember. It was another space show. I thought it was going to be a parody, but it actually is another space show, a Star Wars, Star Trek type show. More like Star Trek, and that's what I thought it was a parody of. Seth Meyers? Is he the guy who does Family Guy, and it's his show. They did an episode similar to that too. So yeah, I can no longer watch their show because I don't do Hulu. They took it off Fox, so okay, good luck getting numbers. But I heard coronavirus prevented them from releasing season 2, or is it 3 now? But I think it's 2, because they just got started, I think. So yeah, pay attention, guys, because this is what they're trying to transform us into, slowly and steadily, because they know if they do it all at once, we will riot. Like in Minnesota. Police officers murder an unarmed black man, calling for help, saying I can't breathe, and they murder him. And so that's a line that got crossed. Instead of torturing blacks through poverty, low wages, no business opportunities to buy things, no health insurance. This is how it's been done in our nation for a long time now. And so when you cross that threshold too quickly, people have a civil war response. And so the cops should have known better. But yeah, that's why it was done. It's because this is the enemy that's taking over America right now. Their agents are everywhere. They have been planning and preparing this chess game for a very long time, and they are now making their final moves to put us in checkmate. If we're not already in checkmate, as we just need to play out the rest of the game. So another checkmate is fire season. It's going to get uglier. Southern Utah has heat wave warnings. We're not even in summer yet. We're still a month away from summer, but heat wave down in southern Utah. And that's not good news. It's going to be a big test to see if coronaviruses slow down in southern Utah. And I'm going to get to the coronavirus numbers. We're already at 30 minutes. I told you this was a big news day. So pay attention. We're going to have lots of wildfires this year, if we don't have others that are human caused. So that's the heat waves that's coming. Gas station break. ABC4 News Utah, which is the main source for my Utah news, did a video, silent video. It was from the security cameras at the gas station. 3 girls, teenage girls, broke into a gas station and they went right for the smokes. They didn't have bags. No, they just broke in, got what they could carry, and then on their way out, one of the girls had a free hand, grabbed a big case of beer. Yeah. The quality of society is observed by the weakest link in the society, or the care for the weakest link in the society. I can't remember. I'd have to watch Con Air again. I talked about it yesterday in the video. He quoted a famous philosopher on that, and I didn't do justice to it. But yeah, it was bizarre. You can see the girls. You most likely know them. They're smokers and drinkers. They didn't go for the cash. They went for the smokes and beer. So how do you coronavirus, guys? You think food? Nope, smokes and beer. Utah is going through the budget for the upcoming new budget year, and they're cutting education funding. When the midterms came around and my local state representative was running for office and he won, he sent out flyers afterward asking us constituents what we want to do with the $1 billion surplus, getting the church's $100 billion tax fraud or tithing fraud. Mixed up in that. Utah, the state of Utah, has $1 billion in surplus for a rainy day. They followed the church's pattern, and so the budget does not include the surplus. They don't touch it, they leave it alone for a rainy day. And so under coronavirus, are they touching it? No. They are not touching the billion in this surplus, or in this rainy day. The church likewise, $100 billion for just tithing, still not using it for the rainy day as they claimed they were using it for right before coronavirus struck. They have trillions in surplus, and they're holding on to it during this rainy day when it's needed most. Isn't that interesting? As over 100 have died in Utah, and more deaths to come, and over 100,000 in the United States dead. And then the world, is it over 300,000, is it? Almost over 400,000 or something? Dead. When is a rainy day? What qualifies as a rainy day? And they're cutting education funding for their new budget. Isn't that interesting? That's how they do their budget year by year. If the amount of tax revenue drops, well, we have to do within our means. So certain things are going to have to be cut. And Utah is well known for punishing women, children, the elderly, the disabled, and the non-white man. They're well known for it. Have a look at the laws yourself. Have a look at the budgets year by year, what they cut. The activist groups for each of these entities have to constantly rise up and protest year after year after year to force the government to allow the funding to continue for these groups. If they lax one year, oops, oh, how'd that happen? Oh, you got cut in funding? Oh, that's just too bad. Too late now. Sorry. That's how it works in Utah. So, just remember, it's raining, and they're not giving up their surplus. Okay, talked about QAnon. Utah, we can start talking about numbers in the sense that, remember the Navajo Nation that's getting coverage in the press lately for being the highest per capita in coronaviruses and death and rising in deaths. I don't know if they're per capita for deaths also, but Utah does not cover them in their stats. They possess land in Utah, but Utah will not cover them in Utah's stats. They leave it to the Navajo Nation. It's a completely separate state. But it's not a state, is it? They don't get rights as a separate state in the Union. They're not the 51st state. They are included in whichever state they reside and have residence. That's where they vote. They vote in Utah if they live in Utah. But for coronavirus numbers, Governor Herbert purposely will not include their numbers. And so our numbers, over 100 dead, remember, they're purposely not doing that. I can talk about the coronavirus numbers in Utah now, because Governor Herbert is pulling an old shell game stunt again. If you've been paying attention, as I've been going over the government's website for the daily stats, you will notice that the 26th and 27th have dropped significantly in numbers of new cases. Wow, that's great. It's cured. It's going away. We've controlled it. The curve or whatever, we're going down now. Have you also been paying attention to the number of people getting tested? We still, as of yesterday, not tested at least 10% yet. 10% of 3 million. We have not tested 10%. We're below that. And already we have 100 dead with less than 10% tested. We're getting close to 1,000. We're at 716 as of yesterday who are hospitalized, and a good percentage of them will die, because that's what happens with coronavirus. Is once you have the breathing problems, you have to be hospitalized, and once you're hospitalized, your mortality rate significantly lowers versus whether having symptoms but you don't need to be hospitalized for them. There's a big difference. And so pay attention, because more deaths are on their way. But you notice the little shell game trick. Back on the 2nd of May, Governor Herbert was able to test 5,246 people. They can do over 5,000 tests per day in the state of Utah. They have the capability, they have the ability to make the world's first bionic man. They can do the testing. You know, they talk about how they succeeded in confiscating the Colorado's or Wyoming supplies or whatever, Iowa maybe, wherever they got it from. And they had to work hard to get it, because it's what is that? Hunger Games. Trump has purposely turned America into Hunger Games for medical equipment and supplies needed to test. Because Utah first went to China and ordered it, but it was taken. And so Utah lost, and so they had to get it from another source. Yeah, they can test 5,000 a day, easily. Well, guess what they've been doing for the last several days? 2,000. So if we double, which would be 4,000 tests, and so we double the cases, so it was 100, on the 26th, double that would be 200 cases. Now we're back at the high numbers where I was telling you we were going into. As Herbert opened up the government, as Herbert downgraded Utah to yellow, and sure enough, that's what he's doing. He's again throttling the testing to prevent higher numbers of cases, to show an outward appearance of misinformation and disinformation to destroy Utah. It's the same plan as I've been talking about, and Governor Herbert is playing it to a T. And so pay attention. Also, he is not including assisted living. And I exposed the assisted living. There's already been 44 deaths. So technically, we're at 149 deaths in Utah, as reported, according to those tested for coronavirus. We are not out of this by any stretch of the means. And just because you don't test as many, and remember, they only allow those to be hospitalized who are dying, who are having trouble breathing. If you test positive, you don't go to the hospital. You go back out into the community to spread it around. That's how they're doing it. Remember all the scandals, not just the testing scandals that I'm pointing out, but the one Rachel Maddow even exposed because it made national news about Governor Herbert and this coronavirus thing. Well, sure enough, as it was exposed yesterday, that the new testing systems across the nation are finding to not produce accurate results. They're testing those who are testing positive, who've had the coronavirus, but they didn't actually have the virus. And those who don't have it are not getting tested positive, and it doesn't work. All these tests to find out who has immunity, who has antibodies, they're frauds. They don't work. And so Utah, as following the scandal, has stopped the testing of Utah's version of them. And of course they have to throw in, they're going to redo it. They'll be back. And it's just, oh dear God. There's a HIV drug that still gets advertised, as I saw it yesterday, about how the drug is so effective, doctors can't tell if you've got HIV. Oh dear God. If you have HIV, your doctors need to know you have it. You can't go around with HIV and having sex on a random basis and not inform people, hey, I've got HIV, the disease that causes AIDS. If you have sex with me, you're likely to get it yourself. And then the drug is saying, oh yeah, doctors can't tell. Oh my God. Again, this is the end of America. They are all coordinating to destroy us. And Governor Herbert's playing his part. Nelson's playing his part. And again, remember, inverted pentagram. And so, SpaceX, after Trump visited, they canceled it. They claim it was because of the weather. I'm sure it had nothing to do with Trump going off of his hydroxychloroquine to prevent getting it, not because he got it. Again, he's got the vaccine, and so he's, patient zero, going around spreading it to people. And wouldn't that be funny if the astronauts got the virus? Hilarious. And so, yeah, I saw SpaceX as a distraction, purposely planted as a distraction from coronavirus, so that everybody would ignore the 100,000 deaths that got reported on the same day. That's how Trump has always worked. We should know that by now. John Hopkins, for a number of cases. Here I explain testing for it, or case counts. John Hopkins started their site, but they can only put on there what is reported to them. Utah refuses to report. Now, I'm hoping that they've caught on that Utah has the website that they can go to, but that they have to go to both pages to identify the total numbers, the assisted living page and the home page. But Utah had never wanted to cooperate with John Hopkins. And so their numbers have been lagging behind because certain governors refuse to release information to them. And so it's John Hopkins numbers that we're going by for reporting the number of cases as of yesterday. But sites like Google are reporting a much higher number. So let me get the current number on Google. Alrighty. So this is the official Google reporting. This is not by any other company. This is Google trying to make sure that correct information is made available to people. And Google reports, let's see, 1.74 million confirmed cases in the United States, plus 18,677. So they abbreviate the main number and then add the total accurate number that they have. So 1.740018,677. The total number of deaths, remember just yesterday they were saying we finally reached 100,000 dead. Well, that was because of John Hopkins. Google reported this 2 days ago. We passed it 2 days ago. Not yesterday, but 2 days previous to yesterday. So Monday, on Memorial Day, at the end of day, we passed it. But they didn't report it until yesterday when Trump had assigned the SpaceX. So that kind of disturbs me that was timed that way. But we are now at 1,379 deaths. So we're over 2,000 deaths from 100,000 that they were reporting yesterday. So I noticed it was 500 different from John Hopkins. As I was trying to inform MSNBC, because MSNBC was reporting a different number than John Hopkins, and Google is reporting different from both. And so I was asking them, who do I trust for the case numbers? Because your numbers are not the same as John Hopkins, and both of yours are not the same as Google. But regardless, the real number is actually higher. So just understand that. So, I mean, we're looking at tragedy, exponential tragedy. Who profited from coronavirus? A number of senators profited from coronavirus. The FBI began investigating, but they dropped it yesterday. They dropped the investigations into the senators for stock market insider trading. And that's a crime. Senators can't do it either, but the FBI dropped the investigations into all the senators except for one. Richard Burr. He's the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which came out and said Russia was responsible for the election hacking in 2016, getting Trump put in as the puppet president. So of course, Trump has Barr orders his investigation to continue. Barr's likely to see jail time unless he confesses. I don't see him as narking on anybody else of a higher authority, but he's getting punished for reporting truth in his committee, and Trump doesn't like it. And again, we're seeing the censorship of truth in America under Trump. It's coming. 1984. And then the last, I already covered this. Trump has stopped taking his drugs. He's cured. It's a Cinderella story, the miracle. And so, I do need to do the Utah numbers, don't I, with unemployment. Alright, so let's get this out of the way. It's lunchtime already. And we're at 52 and a half minutes. Okay. The unemployment numbers. 5,455 more Utahns were added for last week's reporting. And so, yeah, despite going back to work, we still lost 5,455 who were approved for unemployment. These are not the unemployed numbers. These are those who were approved for unemployment. You need to understand that. So the total under coronavirus that are reported and approved are around an estimated 185,500. The total unemployment, which includes those who were unemployed previous to coronavirus, makes our total 225,500. That's almost 10%. Huh. So, yeah, it's going to get worse, guys. It's going to get worse. But Herbert says we're not shutting the government down again. We're not shutting businesses down again. We're not having people stay at home again. But if Utahns get coronavirus, they're to blame. God. And so, yeah, 2.1, you've probably heard already. That's 40 million for coronavirus. Some try to fudge the numbers higher, some lower, depending on the news they are. But 46 million total. And that's more than 10% for America. Or is it? Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah, because we're at 300 million minus those who have now died. So we're closer to 300 million again. And so, yeah, that's over 10%. We can do the percentages. Let's do the percentage calculator and click on that one instead. And then I use this one at the bottom from this number I put in first. No, this is no. 225500 out of Utah's population 3206. Nope, wrong way. 3206. What? No! Why isn't it not working? Because I didn't move the decimal point. See, it doesn't do any good to teach kids math when 13%. No. How did I do that? Oh, it's not the third one. It's the second one I'm supposed to do. What good is it to have school? 7%. Oh man. There we go. Why isn't this working for me? 7% unemployed in Utah. Under coronavirus, 185,500. It is 5.8%. Okay, so for the nation, 46, 123. So what percent of 15% unemployment for the nation, and then 40, so 13% just for coronavirus. I was doing the increase or decrease percentage. Alright, so yeah, total chaos. And I hope I've helped you understand the context of the chaos we are experiencing right now. This is the plan and plot of enemies of nations. They've been doing it since the beginning of starting corruption. And they're still doing it now, and they are in full force right now as we are being destroyed, literally. So don't be fooled by words. Look at the truth. Pay attention. You'll have to pay attention because misinformation and disinformation is on the rise, and Trump's going to silence truth. So be safe. Don't fall for it.